Hey everyone. Welcome to our webinar on driving growth through smarter sales marketing collaboration. I don't want to waste your time with boring intros or the story of our company, so let's get in straight to the good stuff. As you can see, I'm joined by someone who I've been wanting to bring on this stage for a long time, Laura from Dreamdata. Hey Laura, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you for the invitation, Lucina. I'm very happy to be here and I'm looking forward for the conversation.
Yeah, thank you so much. So I'm sure everyone knows you, but you want to tell us a bit about yourself just to keep things
Sure,
down.
sure. So I am a director of sales of our US team at Dreamdata. I started here 5 years ago. And I started from a very corporate sales world before. When I joined Dreamdata, we had no revenue. I had to more or less build it from ground up. Now we have an office in New York. We have a very strong social presence and all that type of magic did not happen overnight. So we can speak through all of the processes that we went through from marketing to sales and any of the growth parts that you would like to discuss.
Yeah, I've got to say, every year when I saw the post you were sharing about how you handle sales marketing alignment at Dream Data, I was like, I need to interview you and really dig into the details. I'm going to bring up this post so everyone can see. Yeah, I'm talking about those.
I've got an updated one. It's coming soon as well.
Oh, I was gonna ask when is the 2025 edition is
It's coming. It's coming. Yeah.
nice. Okay. Good. And yeah, here we are finally. So let's get into it. And yeah, for our audience, don't forget to drop your questions in the chat. We'll cover them at the end. And yeah, let's start with the cost of misalignment. I'm gonna bring up some data that I got from InCharge. So I was reading this stat recently from InCharge that says aligned sales and marketing teams drive 208% revenue growth from marketing strategies, and they save 30% on customer acquisition costs and have 20% higher lifetime value for customers. Those are some like insane numbers. And my question is, why do so many companies fail at aligning their sales and marketing teams? What's your take on this?
I think to start with, we don't have the exact measures to hold marketing accountable for. And it's not because we don't know what we should measure them for, but it is very difficult to measure. And if you don't have the right tools to measure revenue, what sales is finally driven for, then it's very difficult to get alignment because marketing is trying to push for top of funnel measures and then sales is finally closing out the sale. And then we get that type of a misalignment that marketing is probably not bringing in leads that actually are converting or closing into sales because we don't have the right measures to measure. Like, how do we figure it out if this was sales who brought in the lead or was it marketing who did that? Because with sales, it's pretty easy. You made a cold call, you send an email, it's registered in your CRM, and we know it's sales. So every time when you put last touch attribution on marketing, you're actually hurting the measurement of marketing very much because most of the times last touch will be either sales or direct traffic that is not even a channel or a source and not something you can scale. So in able to have that kind of a closer collaboration, you need to set up metrics that actually matter and figure out how are we going to understand the full customer journey of what is helping our clients to find us, to finally convert, and to close it to revenue. So we don't have to play two teams that at delivering pipeline because it's not the end goal. The end goal is what works for our company to drive revenue. And if that's marketing top of funnel and sales lower funnel, or the other way around, maybe sales is amazing at cold calling and the marketing needs to nurture the leads if it's very long customer journeys and create events and so on. So you have to understand what is actually driving your customers to buy and when does it start in order to start measuring marketing on the right measures and getting sales to understand that marketing is actually bringing in good value for you.
Yeah, totally. Historically, because sales and marketing, like I think they have worked in silos, and marketing would own the top of the funnel, as you mentioned, and sales would own the bottom. And once the lead was ready for sales, it could be handed off, and in many cases, would never hear again from marketing.
Yeah,
And this linear process, I think, it's no longer possible in today's world because customers are constantly engaging with brands long before they purchase and after a deal closes also. And this misalignment between sales and marketing, this like messy handoffs and duplicate communications, they can and they will affect the buyer's perception of your business and result in lost revenue. And
I agree.
I see a lot of these misalignment discussions and arguments are about the leads, right? So marketing thinks sales ignores leads, sales thinks marketing sends garbage leads. Have you faced this? And what would you recommend to those that are facing this problem now?
I hear that a lot. We don't face it, but I hear that a lot. And I can start with how we're tackling it ourselves that we don't face this problem, and then we can talk about what can we do as companies if you see that type of misalignment. So, we don't face this because to start with, we are inbound driven. And inbound driven, as you're seeing the alignment of CMO and myself dressing up the same, because we have a CMO who has cracked the code of inbound. And that is a lot of brand building, hard work of understanding what your clients are engaging with top of funnel. What is it that we can bring to the table for your prospects to start looking you up and finding you through brand keywords, landing on organic. And it's not just brand building, it's a lot of paid. It's a lot of efforts on the social media as well. So you have to understand your clients deeply and understand how they're engaging with your brand when they're ready to buy. And when they're ready to buy, and it could be that they will be ready to buy in 3 months because now they're just talking about the project. But we're seeing the signals already now. They're being targeted with our ads. They are clicking on some of the links, but not converting yet. We've got a lot of signals to pick up from. And those type of signals, when I'm saying we're inbound driven, we get a lot of signals that clients are in market. People say that it's 5% of your target market that is in market right now, even if they're showing signals of investigating your brand or looking into in general the, let's say, we sell attribution, so looking into attribution, marketing measurement, and so on. It's not the signal that they're ready to buy right now. It could be that they're building up the project and building up the use case, what it is that we're going to build it up as a project before we look for a tool. But if you're top of mind during that process, then they will convert much faster and you will be one of the first brands that are going to speak with. And there's also statistics that if you are the first brand they're speaking with and booking a demo with, I think there's like 80 or 85% chance that you're going to win the deal, which means that you have to stay top of mind while they're still even building the project, not even ready to buy. So, what we do in very simple terms is marketing is doing their own job, bringing in signals. Some of them convert. So we're not talking leads like lead gen as old fashioned, like how many emails did you collect? Because most of the times those might be garbage. You got the webinars, signups, you can't close them because they're only interested to listen to a topic or to a specific speaker. They're not ready to buy from you just yet. Our signals most of the times are website visits. What is it that they're reading? What type of content that they're reading that is showing that they are already investigating the topic? And our SDRs are receiving those signals. And when our SDRs are doing outbound, they're doing outbound on signals. That's the top priority, which means that they are starting conversations with companies that already are building out the projects of attribution. Maybe they're not buying the tool yet, but they are defining what the project is going to be. And that conversation for the SDRs is so much easier than I picked up the phone, called somebody up who actually cares about this topic. We had a conversation. Maybe we didn't even book a meeting. Could be we did, but we did have a conversation and they know the brand top of mind because Dreamdata solves this problem. And next time when the project is already taking shape, who do you think they're going to call? And if we book the meeting already, then we're taking a conversation before the project is even shaped and we're helping them to shape it. So this is how we create that type of alignment. It's never about the lead gen. We do care about speaking with the right people in the right roles who are our ideal customer profiles in the size of the company, what type of roles are they having, who usually work on those projects. And then sales do take over for marketing even before the lead is generated. So that type of collaboration together creates an alignment of we're doing this together, and it's not a credit game. Yes, an SDR is credited for the meeting booked, but we have to make sure that we capture that lead even before the SDR is creating their own list from some arbitrary ICPs of what it is am I targeting. I have a list of companies that are in the market and are evaluating the solution. And we don't talk about the credit that, oh, marketing brought in that many leads. Marketing brought in that many signals. And then it's sales job to pick up the leads and book them. So for you, when you are working with your marketing teams and thinking, oh, how can we make sure that sales and marketing are closer aligned? Make sure that first you define what your ideal customer profile is. Who are our ideal companies that we are targeting? And ideal profiles that we're going after. This is what, to start with, this is what marketing has to define. Who are we targeting for our ads? Who are we writing our content for? And as soon as we have done that, that already is a big step forward for you to start seeing, are we seeing those companies visiting our website? So if we do a reverse IP lookup, and see which companies are on our website. You can do it with Clearbid. You can do it with other companies. Dreamdata gives that for free for you as well. If you just want to see, are the right companies that we're defined as the right buyers for us visiting our sites? Are we seeing them seeing our LinkedIn ads and only showing us intent from their company profile so far, not even converting? Are we doing our job right? This is the first step. After that, you have to figure out how long is your customer journey to that booking. Because usually when companies are speaking about company journey length, they're speaking about from the actual booking to a closed new deal. We have figured out that from our customers' data that it takes 211 days for a company to go from the first touch on your website, very first touch when they're still anonymous, up till the deal is closed. For any B2B SaaS companies, this is the benchmark. 211 days. That's freaking long time.
Yeah.
It means that you got to know the length of the customer journey. When marketing are doing their investments, when should we be expecting more leads to come through? When is the best time for sales to call? What are the signals that companies are showing you that shows the signal for for SDRs to start reaching out and start booking those meetings as well? Or you can just sit down and wait for them to come in, but then probably you're not going to be the first one they're going to speak with, and you might be losing a little bit on that part. And then finally, of course, streamlining the sales processes. We're not going to speak about that part, but this is more like the handover from sales to from marketing to sales to understand how can we work better together in order to close revenue rather than just generate arbitrary leads from marketing.
Yeah, I agree so much. Like without the structured processes and like clear definitions and accountability, everyone just blames each other. And in my experience, transparency is also like huge. You can't just say, "Oh, hey, be aligned." You need the real tools, SLAs, dashboards, something everyone can see. And the core issue is that marketing and sales often operate with completely different definitions of what a qualified lead is. In many cases, like marketing might consider someone who downloaded a white paper and fits the ICP as qualified, while sales expect someone who is like actively evaluating solutions or like other criterias. And if you are not aligned on these definitions, it won't be possible to grow. And yeah, since we are talking about qualified leads, let's talk about the handoff moments again for of these leads. What's the biggest deal breaker you have noticed there during the handoff?
Yeah. So if thinking about the deal breakers, to start with, like when you see pictures of our CMO and me taking happy pictures of Align clothing and so on. So having a good collaboration between your marketing and sales team is great. It's not a like we're kumbaya best friends and love each other and go out for drinks. We do sometimes, but the biggest deal breaker is when the teams don't work together. And by don't work together, that means that you have to collaborate not just on the dashboards that we're doing, but also understanding why some of the leads are converting, some of them are not. What type of leads are, what type of leads are not. What is marketing doing in order to bring that quality to sales? But the other way around, as long as marketing is at the table, we have them in all of our pipeline meetings, then marketing will see what type of leads are stuck in the processes, what type of leads are going fast, which means that we might want to adjust our ICP, or we want to adjust our processes or content we're writing. At the very beginning of Dreamdata, if some of you are working at smaller companies, we did not have enough content. So, number one rule for our CMO was, I want to write content that sales teams are being asked during calls. So, our companies that are coming in to look into Dreamdata can find answers on the website even before booking us, or that can be an asset for sales for them to have the answers right in front of them as soon as the questions are being asked. That was one of the first parts how we started to build content. Later on, you can build on all the thought leadership content and all the stuff that helps you to rank on SEO. But that type of deep content is what your buyers are looking for. It's not top of funnel like here's a list of 10 things you should do to align your sales and marketing. This is fluff. This attracts podcast invitations and like speaking on webinars with people, which is great. But when you're just starting off, you have to focus on that 5% of how can you move the needle for them to find you and understand that you're a legit company that can solve the problems that I'm trying to solve. And then you can start building the brand on top of that as well. So make sure that marketing is at the table with sales, and sales is also has a say of how are we going to run out some of our marketing campaigns.
Absolutely. I want to continue this and cover a bit about webinar leads. This is so funny because I'm literally writing this webinar guide right now, not for beginners, but for people who are already running webinars. And when I got to this whole lead handoff thing, I was like, do I even need to include this? Because this seems so obvious and so basic. It's definitely not for advanced webinar hosts. But then I realized, no, I actually have to dedicate like a whole section to this because I keep talking to marketers who should know this like process, and they're still doing the same mistakes and they don't even care. They're like, who cares what happens after the webinar if my goal was to get 500 registrants and I got them? They hit their target and they're like, the rest is sales responsibility. And you know what happens all the time? Someone signs up for your webinar, maybe they watch half of it, they download your slides, and suddenly they are getting a call from sales, and the sales rep is like, hey, I see you attended our webinar. And the person is like, what webinar? Which one? Who are you? But I don't blame sales here. They just got a name and email address from the marketing from the webinar, and that's it. No context whatsoever. Like, they have no clue that this person just spent an hour learning about their biggest pain point, or that they asked 3 questions about pricing, or that they watched the product demo. So what I tell people is to use like lead scoring to define which leads are qualified and who should go straight to your sales team, and pass all the webinar engagement data to the sales team, and automate all this process to create like a workflow that will send a notification to the BDRs whenever someone gets qualified. And if someone watched the webinar, like 80% of your webinar, and they fit your ICP and they checked your content, that's not just any lead. That lead deserves a personal follow-up that actually mentions what they engaged with. And the sales team can personalize their outreach. They can send an email saying, for example, hey, Laura, thanks for your question about whatever topic. Here is a case study on how a similar company tackled this. And would you be open to, let's say, a 15-minute call to discuss this? This is so different from what we see. And yeah, since I started talking about webinars and content engagement, my next question is, how can marketing create content that actually helps sales close more deals? I know you covered it a little bit in the previous question, but for like content for the articles and for the webinar topics also, how they should choose the topic.
Yeah. To start with, we don't send our webinar registrations to SDRs. So people who have been a part of our LinkedIn Live, we run weekly LinkedIn Lives. We don't send it to our SDRs. We only send the ones that have been on our website and are showing signals that have been identified as buyer intent. Attending a webinar is not buyer intent. As you're talking about lead scoring, that's exactly what you're looking for. You're looking for the buyers that do have intent. Most of them are just curious about the topic and the speaker that you brought in. So the reason we even do webinars, because this is top of funnel awareness. Awareness for people who once at a point will start looking for solutions like this and will know that the company who speaks a lot about this topic is Dreamdata. They understand marketers. And most of the times, we don't even speak about attribution on our webinars either. We speak about the various topics that marketers care about because then they know that this company gets us. It understands our problems, but when we need a measurement solution, then we will know that we can go over to them because they have their shit together and the product just works for this. But everything else, it's just awareness and teaching the market, showing them that you are the thought leader who your ICPs care about, and that you are going to show quality information on the webinars, in your newsletters, and so on. And for content, what type of content are we going to write? You gotta see to start with. So at the beginning, we wrote content that salespeople were not able to answer on calls and to help salespeople sell, and at the same time for your buyers to educate themselves. To top this off, then we started doing the webinars for our buyers to see us and our contents as thought leaders. And then we do redistribute that type of content for both, like we write blogs, we do short snippets for those webinars as well. That's sent through social media, send it to the person who attended as well. And most of the times, the people who attend are also either our ICPs or voices that our ICPs wants to listen to. So our ideal customer profiles would always want to listen to that specific person. We invite them. And which means that when we make it easy for those people to share content where they were a part of the webinar as well, that creates even broader brand awareness. So that type of content also works because it attracts the eyes that this person is associated with this company that also speaks so much about marketing. And that's what we care about. Later on, then we would write very in-depth articles about the topics that marketers care about. And you do that through both social listening. You can see it on LinkedIn, you can see it on the threads that your buyers are on Reddit, wherever that is. If that they're talking AI, large language models, how to be found on AI, or whatever topics like social LinkedIn, social posting. Does that work? The reason why people are excited to follow me on LinkedIn, I'm in sales. I'm freaking no fun for marketers to follow because I'm going to follow up with you if you're my ICP. Of course, I want to sell to everybody who's following me, but I'm not. But the reason they're following me and starting to learn about it because they care about the topics I speak about. I speak about sales and marketing alignment. You care about it. Marketing cares about it. So you have to find a niche for yourself, even if you are in sales. Why would your ideal profiles want to follow you, and what type of content do they want to listen about? And follow the trends that are hot so you're able to both speak about it but write more content about it for your buyers to find. And then you'll see that type of snowball effect for other people starting to reshare your posts, even to read your uh, content on your website and find it as an inspiration to use it by themselves, share it with others, and so on. So focus on quality, never on like top of funnel, try to be found by SEO, because that's going to be soon obsolete.
As a marketer who is following you, I can confirm all this. Yeah. And yeah, you know what I love about what you just said? It's It's not just about creating good content, it's about creating content that fits exactly where your prospects are in their buying journey. Like if sales is constantly getting objections about pricing or implementation timelines, why not run a webinar or write an article or create any type of content specifically addressing those concerns? That way, when they are on calls, they can say, actually, we just covered this exact topic in our recent webinar. Here is the replay. And suddenly your content becomes a sales tool, not just a lead gen activity or regular marketing task. And usually what happens is that marketing creates these webinars or other content, gets great engagement, hands off leads to sales, and then nothing. No one is actually measuring whether that content strategy is helping to close deals or
Yep.
just creating more work for everyone. So if you're not measuring whether it's actually working, you don't know if it's helping your growth or not. Which brings me to something I'm really curious about. What metrics do you track to ensure this alignment actually drives growth? Are there any specific shared KPIs that both sales and marketing should be looking at, like together? Because I feel like this is where a lot of teams get stuck. They create great content, but they never connect it back to actual revenue.
Yeah. For us, it's just revenue. And when I'm saying just revenue, it's not just the deals closed. We do look at top of funnel, SQLs, and new business as well in order to see what's trending. So we always measure how many MQLs did we create this week, every single week, and then compare it with the previous week and see what happened and why is this trend going up or down. Then we do measure sales qualified leads. So that's where marketing leads have been pushed into sales qualified. And we split that into two. Either that was inbound or outbound in order to be able to see what's actually working. And when we're defining outbound and inbound, inbound is purely when a company came to our website and submitted a form. Outbound is when an SDR made an effort to either call, email, or LinkedIn DM to book that active meeting. When somebody said yes to a meeting to an SDR. And it does not matter if they have been touched by marketing before, it's still outbound because there was an active activity to book that type of meeting. So that's where already we're very much aligned to make sure that we're booking as many of those signals as possible. The next thing that we're comparing as well is looking into the new business. So, how fast are our deals moving to the SQL stage? Who are the people who are moving them faster from sales qualified to new business? Which regions are those inbounds, are those outbounds, and what is happening in that process? And most of the time, you will just find anomalies every time because some journeys might take 500 days, some journeys might take 30 days to close. But when you start to compile the trends over time, you will start to see a broader picture of what's actually working. And we do look into what content helps our clients to move to the next stages, especially, for example, one very specific example, we created on site on our website interactive demos. That was almost a year ago, which was like, it was a consideration. Should we at all do this? Because it takes a lot of time to do. And those are clickable demos where you can click, 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 click to the next step if you don't want to do a trial with Dreamdata. And it took a long time. To begin with, sales started sharing them in follow-ups, as you're saying. It's like, look, sale, we've already got this content, so maybe you want to have a look at this or forward to a person who cares about taking this a step further and investigating. Now we're seeing, I think it's even double more accounts are being touched in their buying process, looking into those interactive demos. So find the niche of what your buyers are looking for. Not that they would ever tell you. You'll have to test. You'll have to do it. You'll have to share it. And then looking into the data, you'll be able to see it. So when saying that, oh, listen to your clients, look into the customer journeys of your client and meet them where the buyers are. You won't meet them where they are if you did not test it, because you would never know where they are in the customer journey because they would never show. If you did not have interactive demos on your site, you would never know if those are working. If you did not start doing webinars, you would never know when should we hit them with a recording, when should we schedule specific webinars, or even if we should be inviting specific guests that are interesting for our ICPs. You got to test. And then you got to scale. So test, try to do it as cheap as possible and as fast as possible, and then you got to scale if you see that working.
True. And like, yeah, if you need metrics that they need to like put metrics that force both teams to care about the same outcome. So instead of marketing just caring about lead volume and sales just caring about closed won deals, everyone should care about the revenue. And I'm curious, since feedback loops are obviously critical here for making this whole thing work, what does an effective feedback loop actually looks like for you, to not like without turning it into hours of meetings every day?
Oh, no, 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 no. Meetings don't work.
Yes.
We got to look into the data. So there are specific people who look at the specific reports and do highlight that every week for all of the teams. So we do have our sales team meeting, which is every single week where we look into the MQLs, SQLs, new business, and which channels do they come from? What are the trends from the previous week? So that is on the sales side. Marketing is listening. Marketing comes in with their weekly report of how many MQLs did we create, which were the channels that were the most impactful ones to create those MQLs. And that is just a report that is being shared on Slack for everyone in the company to follow. And then you're able to see the trends of what's happening when the MQLs are booked, how many did we have, and what are the ones that are moving further down the pipeline stages. And so the problem for marketing most of the times is that due to not having proper possibilities to measure yourself toward the pipeline and towards the new business closed with all of the touch points available, you start creating way too many reports that nobody cares about. Teams become numb of seeing marketing reports that are like 20 slides long. We had this much traffic site, we had that many search keywords done, and so on. So what? And what does that mean in the big picture of the full revenue? If you're measuring marketing by just one single touch when the deal was created or an MQL has booked, you're losing, because there are so many other touches across the customer journey to close that loop and understand what's actually working. Should we do more LinkedIn ads that usually do not bring in conversions? Or should we be doing some cheaper like Google ads or even Bing ads in order to be able to see what's going to help our clients to convert? So to close that loop, you got to track the full customer journey. You got to understand, besides that last touch that is well guiding but very misleading for marketing, what else are our prospects seeing before they book us, and how do those leads are actually converting further?
And can you share a real example of a sales marketing alignment win at Dreamdata that like you weren't expecting?
Hmm. Yeah, so the interactive demos is a big thing, because to begin with, that was something marketing did, and sales, yeah, maybe it's nice, but we also run demo calls and kind of thanks for this, but no thanks. Because we anyway are doing demos, we're doing videos. Whenever somebody's asking for something, oh, can you share a video of a customer journey so I can share it to my CMO? Sure, I just turn on SenseSpark, shoot a video and send it over to them. So here's a video for you. Or I already had some videos created about that. It's like, thanks marketing, great, but what can I use it for? And then suddenly I figured out that I don't have to do those videos anymore, and I can send a list of 3 specific use cases that they were looking into. Here are the ones that are important for you. Either we're looking into ROI measurement and so on, and we can see that those interactive demos are helping our clients to buy. So sales started using them. We even included them into our sales decks at the end. So when we send the sales deck at the end, you've got the interactive demos if you wanted to remember some of the pieces of the content. Because reveal, none of the teams that you're selling to are probably going to look at the recordings of the calls you're sharing. So if you're sharing calls recording of the whole call, or anybody asks you to share it, of course, share it, but they'll never watch it. This is so freaking rare. If you want to share something, share a tiny snippet of 2 minutes, what you've showed some specific call. But if you share an interactive demo that is 10 clicks and you're through it and you already know what's working, that's going to help your clients buy. So this is a true win. And I can continue talking about the various things. So when, for example, our clients, prospects come into our pipeline stages, let's say they are booking a call with us inbound.
Mhm.
And the call is booked. One of the first things they say, "Oh, I love your brand. Oh, I saw the billboard. Oh, I love like how Stefan is sharing the content. I've seen it all over. But I did not know that you were doing attribution." So now sometimes you even get companies who book with you because of your content in marketing. So they when came through sale, let's say, or a paid keyword, but then suddenly figure out, oh wait, so this is the company that I have been following forever. I've seen those people in the company. And which means that already their familiarity with the company is they do this product thing that I'm looking for. Plus, I love how they understand me as a buyer. And then later, when they're through the sales process, then it's a win-win for everybody because we have been playing as the same team.
Yeah, I think that's that's what most people miss when they think about sales and marketing alignment. And they're so focused on fixing the finger pointing and like the lead quality complaints that they forget alignment can actually create these unexpected wins. Like when both teams are really working together and sharing insights, you start seeing patterns and opportunities that neither team would have spotted on their own. And it's funny because I bet if someone had told you at the beginning of your role, hey, this is exactly how it's going to play out, you would probably be like, yeah, right, that sounds too good to be true. But that's the thing about real alignment, I think. The results often surprise you because you are finally operating as one revenue team instead of two separate departments trying to hit their own numbers. And I think we can take some questions from the audience. I see we got
Yeah.
like 4 questions, so I want to cover those too. First question we have from Antoine. How do you manage commission for SDR team? Do you think they have to be commissioned on every lead for inbound and
Yes.
outbound?
Yes, and I do believe in commissions for both SDRs and the sales teams in general for account executives. I have seen teams that claim, oh, we don't need targets because marketing does not have commission based pay, and so sales should not do that either. That does not work. Sales are aimed for targets. These are the types of profiles we're hiring for. Our first SDR, she is a freaking tennis player star who is like has the highest grit in the world to do the hardest job that is the most boring in the world, but she continues doing that because she knows that the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to book the meeting. And when you book the meeting, if you are not rewarded for it, I don't see that working. I don't see that working. Why should I? Like, why should I do the mastery of calling through the hardest leads instead of, I don't know, sending emails and just expecting somebody to answer? So they have to find that type of path to book the meeting so they can be rewarded for it. So I think that 100% works, and SDRs have to be rewarded for the meetings booked. But we have to make sure that both the targets are attainable and we work as a team to make sure that SDRs book those meetings too. That's why SDRs are also a big help. Most of the times, I also think that SDRs are a big part of marketing team too, because they are helping marketing to bridge the gap between the seller who's meeting the prospect and marketing initiatives that they're doing before they come inbound. So they're kind of in the middle, but a little bit more in marketing because they're bringing awareness and booking that first meeting. As soon as that is booked, yes,
Mhm.
they have to be commissioned on every outbound lead that they have booked.
Thanks, Laura. Next question is from Salim. What's your approach to attribution at Dreamdata?
That's a very broad question. Yes. So we do multi-touch attribution, and we do track the full customer journey from their intent when they're not even submitting forms for us. So we do cookieless tracking, we do cookie-based tracking. Once they convert, we do revert it back to the actual touch that brought them into Dreamdata. We track LinkedIn ads impressions through our partnership with LinkedIn as well, and then we map the full customer journey, also what's happening throughout sales. So when we say multi-touch attribution, we do mean it's across the full customer journey. because marketing is playing a role in all of the touches of the customer journey, and it's not just bringing in leads. Because if you're doing last touch, as I mentioned, you're already letting your sales team, your marketing team to lose, and the sales team to go forward and say, we're bringing everything else, because last touch will always tell you either a meeting was booked, by a call, by an email, or direct traffic. Great marketing. What did I do? So you have to make sure to track the full customer journey in order to understand both what's working, but also to scale those initiatives in the future to get even more of those prospects.
Thanks, Laura. Next question. Okay, from Rebecca. We work with different OKR metrics. One is ARR, and another is to bring in 200 leads with an average value of 250K. It feels like we're working against each other then if revenue is what we actually want. That makes it hard to know what we should do in marketing. I think that's not a question, just
Mhm.
it's an advice for this situation.
Yeah, I mean, the first part of alignment should not be the number of leads that you're bringing in, but the number of quality leads. So we have to align on what quality means for us. And bringing in 200 leads might mean bringing in any types of emails. So then whatever works. And then you will be starting to fill in lists and doing all that kind of stuff to just show that we're doing our job right. What I would suggest is understanding which of those leads that you already brought in were the perfect leads for us, which are the ones that are converting further down the pipeline, and not even the value. How do you define a value in a prospect? Of course, probably the size of the company, looking into the previous historics of how, if we could have closed those deals as well. But you got to look into the data of the full customer journey, what are our ideal customer profiles, and then it will be so much easier for you to define, do we need those 200 leads? Are they even being picked up by sales teams? And if you speak with sales, they will very candidly show you how they pick the leads from. Let's say you give a list of 100 leads to a salesperson, how do you pick who to call first? And it will be so much easier for you to understand what is it they're focusing on, and which of your 200 leads they're never going to call to. And then we will create that type of alignment to understand, am I bringing in the stuff that they want, or is it just crap? And who are they going to call? So how do I make sure that the list I bring them is 50 leads there just will be begging to call them because they're going to convert next? And that will be the closest alignment you can get to.
Next question is from Olga. Most people think alignment is about new leads. How does it affect retention and upsell?
Oh, great question. Absolutely. So alignment in sales and marketing is understanding the complete customer journey. And that also gets into retention and upsell. Depends on your business type. I mean, all of us work with retention of clients. And for long customer journeys, for upsells, if you have multi solution sales as well, that is one of the key parts of your business too. So then into the upsell part and retention, you start to look into, should we be doing more educational webinars? Should we be bringing in our clients together? So they also both have the stronger brand affiliation with you. So I met them, we had a dinner, or we had an event where I've learned some of the things from this company. It will be much easier to continue the conversation for sales as well, to do the upsells, and even for the retention of clients. So marketing alignment with sales, it's not just lead gen. Definitely not. It goes so much further.
Next question. Which CRM are you using?
We're using HubSpot. But I work with clients who both use HubSpot or Salesforce. Some of them would be using Dynamics. I mean, as long as you're tracking initiatives that sales are doing, you could be using the best CRM in the world, but marketing is never registering your meetings and calls. You're kind of doomed. So it's not so much according to the CRM that you're choosing, but it's more about the education of the teams to actually use it and to bring in the data that we're seeing from those CRMs as well. If you're only measuring the last touch in your CRM on marketing automation platform, that is kind of limiting, but it's a good step to start understanding what brings them in and what are sales doing in order to close them, to start seeing the gaps in there and start building on top of that to depending on the size of your company. But when choosing a CRM, for us, a very important part of it is for that CRM to have open APIs to a lot of connections as well. So if you were choosing to go with a new CRM that is, I don't know, the coolest AI thing that nobody has to touch a thing and it would learn and create all the meetings for you and so on, that might sound like a dream, but check out how many integrations do they have outside of the platform, because you can might just as well be as well off with an Excel sheet. But then choose HubSpot, Salesforce, Dynamics, the CRMs that are actually having connections to other platforms that you might want to integrate later.
Thanks, Laura. Next question is from Niboisa. Do you measure, and if yes, which webinar activities in lead scoring?
So in short, we do measure how many people come into our webinars weekly. We aim for at least having, I think right now, 200 registrants, and then at least 50% would show up live, but then we do repurpose them later. So what we do for webinars, besides just counting how many people are we expecting to come, we don't send them to sales. The only time when we do send them to sales, when it's good content for our ICPs. So what we would do is, if we, let's say, had a webinar about measurement, which we not always do, but we had a specific one that would fit so well for an outbound campaign. The first thing that we would do, we would go through the list of people and see who were the ideal customer profiles the sales could approach. And then you can use the messaging, how Dreamdata would be solving that type of topic and how are people approaching it. Do they at all see the problem? Just to start the conversation. So most of the times we would see how many people have registered. If the topic is relevant for outbound, which of the people should be receiving a message or a call from our SDR. And then finally, we would measure, did we actually book those? Most of the times, these are the weakest leads, even though the topic might be exactly about what you're selling and you have a very engaged audience.
Yeah, I also covered this question, I think, earlier. We were talking about the lead handoffs, and we also do these automations. So when someone watches the webinar, let's say like 80% of your webinar, asks questions, like answers to poll, then we use this data to personalize the sales outreach if they also fit our ICP. So you can do the same. Next question is from David. How are you using AI to support sales with marketing content to aid quickly providing answers to new prospects and leads?
You can go and test this out. So we've got a bot on our site, and it has all of the answers that you might want to ask about Dreamdata. So whenever you're on a call, you can ask the bot to whatever questions that you've got, or like just give me content about topic X. And the bot gets back with information. It's already trained. So what we did before, we just used to have a Slack channel that actual people would answer, like our product team would answer. But then we trained the bot to be giving those answers from both the content and the documentation that we did on Dreamdata site. So the bot actually is the same bot that sales teams is also using. So prospects can use it on our side. We use it ourselves in the sales team as well. Whenever there's a question, just go and ask the bot. And it helps both on follow-ups and being on calls and so on. So this is like the biggest AI thing that we're currently using. Plus, we do use AI signals to show the sales teams which signals are the highest converting signals for you to reach out to the prospect. And those might be like content downloads, or is that interactive demo visits or pricing pages. So AI would tell you which of the prospects have the biggest probability to convert into the next pipeline stage. So SDRs can focus on the leads that are actually going to come closer to a booking.
And our last question is from Polly. So, from a RevOps perspective, sometimes it's so hard to align the tech stack between teams. What's a good stack or single platform to unify all the tracking points you have mentioned, especially for startups who can't afford big price tags?
Yeah, so this is what Dreamdata does. Yeah. So either you can try to pull it together. It's hard for RevOps. It's a very hard job to be at because you kind of a little bit political because all of the teams want to be performing very well, and then if they're not, they will be blaming you for the bad report, which means that you have to show them the real reporting, which means that you got to get as much as possible data from marketing and from sales in order to be able to align those customer journeys. And if you have gaps in one or the other, it's not on you, but it's political because they all want to overperform. And if you're not showing the right numbers that they feel are the right numbers, then we're kind of doomed. So you have to align your customer journey. Dream Data does this very well, but you can also try to stitch this together. So you have to have proper website tracking, and you can use a CDP for that, very expensive, by the way, or you can start using Google Analytics and then try to move those reports into like which ad platforms are performing and move it into the CRM. And that's where you start seeing the cracks of the data falling out, because what moves from Google Analytics, it limits you to 90 days conversion windows. It doesn't give you the whole overview of which of the stages that the lead move into in the pipeline and so on. So Dream Data connects website tracking, ad platforms, the CRM for you to be able to see the full customer journey. And then whenever there are questions, hey, dear RevOps, how did you build this report? Then you have the full understanding of all the touches that were visible in all of those systems. And if sales were not really great at registering their calls and they claim that they are booking all of the inbound meetings, it's like, dear sales, here's the list. This is what I'm seeing, and this is what's in the report. So we need to look into the processes of how you're registering those calls. The same goes for marketing. So we're seeing all of these leads and the touches across the customer journey. If you're claiming that there's more, we need to look into the processes of how are we registering those? Are we missing out on any leads from events or any of those clicks you think that are missing? But then we got to see if the tracking is not working or you're just wrong.
And I think we are done with the questions. I don't see any left in the chat. Yeah, we covered everything. Thanks so much, Laura. It was incredible. And yeah, everyone watching, you now have a playbook to turn these blames into growth. Alignment is actually measurable, as you could see, and it's actionable and worth every bit of effort. Laura, do you want to add anything before we wrap up?
Yeah, I still reflected on like big price tags for the tools. So Dreamdata also has a free offering. We do have a free offering and a trial that you can trial for a month if you wanted to see if that could be something for you. I mean, the price tag, it's relevant to the cost that you spend on marketing. And we can have a conversation if it makes sense to introduce a tool like this. And we usually are very transparent on like if you don't spend a lot of marketing, we have to find other use cases why Dream Data would make sense to be paid for. But on the free plan, you're able to have reverse IP lookup, so all of the intent data on your website. LinkedIn ads impressions are mapped out as well, and very good website tracking, which is not limiting you to a 90 days conversion window. So all the historical tracking will continue. So try it out.
I'm going to end with this comment from the chat.
Not sure. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Laura. Thanks for joining, and thank you for sharing all your insights, and thanks everyone for tuning in. So yeah, don't forget, bring these ideas back to your teams. Start small, iterate, and watch growth happen. That's how everyone does it. So thank you, everyone. See you
Thank
soon.
you so much. Bye. Thanks for the invitation.